Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers, a bonus episode for a Saturday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers escaped Toronto with a win, and that's good, but it doesn't feel great. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on Saturdays. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, you're going to find this one always free, never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where over 25,000 subscribers to the channel are all relieved, I guess, Andy, that the Lakers did win Friday night in Toronto, but probably a little bit annoyed that they had to work as hard as they did after building up a 25-point halftime lead. So, on the one hand, there's a lot of individual stuff to like about this. On the other, as Anthony Davis said in the interview with Mike Trudell of Spectrum Sportsnet following the game, the on-court interview, there's a lot of stuff clean up from this one. The Lakers, particularly defensively, after the first quarter, were not particularly good. So, do you want to start with the positive, Andy, or start with the negative?
I would just say that in a lot of ways, the tale of two halves of this game, and also the tale of why this game was underwhelming ultimately for the Lakers, even if what's most important, and it truly is important, they got the win. The crowd was chanting towards the end that they wanted to see Bronny. They were chanting Bronny, Bronny, and we want Bronny, which is going to happen at arenas all over the country and frankly still at the Crypt. That they were only able to see Bronny for, I believe, the final 7 seconds of this game speaks to how anticlimactic a win it was for the Lakers, because given that they went into halftime up 25, you would have thought that this was a game where Bronny would have had a decent chance at like a double-double or something like that, because he just would have been on the court enough. They were outscored 74-55 in the second half. They relaxed, and by relaxing, they started allowing Toronto to do the things that they can do to score, which is in particular run. They are the number one team in the league scoring in transition. They're one of the best at scoring off turnovers. They score well in the paint. And if you allow this team, even shorthanded, to do some things, they'll take it. I mean, they want to win. They're young. They're hungry. They're going to play hard.
And the Lakers certainly got sloppy in the second half. And really, I mean, it is cliche and true and also avoidable that in the NBA, oftentimes when you build up big leads, particularly against bad teams, when you build up big leads, it's the tendency is to relax. The Lakers didn't invent this concept. It does seem at times that they've perfected it, but they were up 24 by the end of the first quarter, 43-19, and everything they were doing offensively was working. The ball was moving, guys. The timing was great. It was as good of a quarter as they have played all season. And Redick actually said, JJ Redick, who. And we'll get to this before the end, had his description of the game versus, say, Anthony Davis's after the game. The contrast there was pretty big, and I actually kind of like it, and I'll explain why in a second. But, he said that he thought that was the best half that they've played. And I think, the second quarter, Lakers come back and score 33. They go up into the half by 25. But defensively, you could start to see the cracks. They allowed 32 points in the second quarter, 37 in the third, 37 in the fourth. And that's just not good enough. And that's really what Anthony Davis pointed out after the game. He said this was unacceptable. Like, if he described it, if you're going to be a team with aspirations to be among the best in the West and go win a title and contend for that, this sort of thing really can't happen. And over the course of the season, Anthony Davis playing 36 minutes in a game where he should have played 30, and LeBron playing 36 in a game where he should have played 28, it'll add up. So, okay, here's your reminder. You got the win. Now don't just let's not see something like this again. This was your warning.
We talk about this all the time. Just the idea that you have opportunity costs. One of them is to I understand they're not playing again until Monday. They got a couple days off anyway, but just to get your stars some rest. AD and LeBron made the most of being out there, though. Both of them played very well. Anthony Davis.
They did. It's not a question of them not, Davis particularly is another one of those huge lines that we hadn't seen quite in the same way since the first game. 38, 11, 2, 3, and 2, 14 of 20 from the floor, 10 of 11 from it doesn't get more efficient than that. And LeBron, this was a cool stat, became the youngest and oldest player to have a 25 and 10 game, 25 points, 10 assists. He did it when he was 18, and now he did it tonight. So good for him. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and Austin Reaves, there was a scare in the first half. He hurt his ankle. I did not think he was going to go back in this game, in part because I just thought that they would keep him rested. And secondly, I thought there would be no need to put him back in. He ended up playing, and when they put him back in, they did not realize at the time there would be a need because he started the second half. And seems like he's going to be fine. He said afterwards that he expects to be out there. He wants to try to play all 82 like he did last season. It was a very good game for D'Angelo Russell. He had 19 points, 7 of 13 from the field, 3 of 6 from behind the arc, 6 assists against 2 turnovers. His best game of the season. And JJ Redick did something really interesting with the rotation. We can talk about it maybe even more in depth for Monday's show. But so far this season, he had been pairing up the 4 best players on the team, LeBron, AD, Reaves, and D'Lo. Once you started subbing in different players, he had been pairing up D'Lo and LeBron and Reaves and AD, which is different than last year. Last year, Darvin, and this was something that I thought worked very well, it was a good decision by Darvin, was typically having AD and D'Lo together and LeBron and Reaves together with various subs. And in particular, I think D'Lo and AD bring out a lot good in each other. And D'Lo, I think especially, has a lot brought out good in him being with AD. This night, JJ went with a rotation similar to last year. And it's funny, I actually tweeted during the game at Cam Brothers that D'Lo was off to a strong start. And I had wondered if JJ wasn't playing him enough with AD. And it turns out that was the plan heading into this game. I'm glad to see it. I hope that it continues moving forward. I do not think it is a coincidence but I don't think it's a coincidence that this was a night that D'Lo played so well, given the rotation change.
Yeah, I think it helps. In terms of the biggest thing that Russell hasn't been doing is shooting the ball well. And, his point guarding has been very good in his playmaking. And, he had, I think, 5 or 6 assists in the first quarter against Phoenix. He's been doing that stuff very well. And his turnovers have been almost non-existent over the course of the year. He had 6, like you mentioned, 6 on Friday against 0 turnovers. But he hasn't shot the ball well. And so, the biggest difference, I think, at least in my view, Friday
had 2 turnovers in this game. He had 2.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's a wrong 0. He had no blocks, as I read the box score.
It wasn't a perfect game for him.
Get in there and protect the rim, D'Lo. But, so in this game, he had a couple really critical fourth quarter threes and had a floater in the lane. Like he had that sort of confidence in his shot was there. Hit a 3 early, which I think helped a little bit. This is why I haven't been worried about him. I think the biggest difference with this rotation change, I think it helps D'Lo, obviously, but what it really does is I think it helps the bench units. I think it just balances them out to hopefully get a little bit more out of it. They got a much better first half, at least from the bench. Max Christie scored 5 of his 7 points in the first half.
I actually think Christie played pretty well in this game.
He did. It was probably his best game of the year.
I'm not saying it's good enough moving forward, but I thought he played better in this game.
Yeah, I would agree. Vincent, I think his bucket came in that.
We're going to talk more about Vincent coming. I am growing more and more concerned that they are going to have a difficult time figuring out what to do with him.
Yeah, he's got to be much better. He's not good. He's not a good enough defensive player to be this bad offensively.
We'll put a pin in that for Sunday because I have thoughts on that as well.
So, overall, it was, they got done what they needed to get done. Rui Hachimura had a really brutal game for most of it, but then finished with 2 critical threes in the fourth quarter. They came up when they needed to do it. What I thought was interesting, I mentioned what Anthony Davis said about the sort of the unacceptability of this. And this is before he got in the locker room. So this is the message that AD instantly goes to, that I'm sure he's sending when he gets in there, whatever. This is before JJ Redick says a word to them after the game. And so he goes in there and he says this and lays out very clearly his view of what happened on Friday. Redick comes out and instead, we need to do better. We need to play better in the second half. The opening to the third quarter wasn't good enough. And so, but very calm, didn't lay into the team, didn't talk about how I loved that contrast where I sense that the coach understands that the leaders of the team know what went wrong tonight, and he doesn't need to go out to the podium and put on the hard ass coach routine to try to show that he knows what's acceptable and what's not. I think the tone here was good. It's this happens in the NBA. We're not going to panic. We know it shouldn't happen. We got to do better. Got the win. We'll learn from it, move on. And you let the player express the discontent in that way. And I thought that I saw that contrast, and I thought it was worth pointing out. And I think, from here to Toronto, to me at least, it projects a pretty healthy vibe and a pretty healthy understanding and relationship between the player leaders and the coach in terms of how the messaging needs to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we see more of this, Redick will pick his spots to where he would lay into the team, because sometimes that is appropriate. But especially too, when you are not just the new guy in the locker room, but literally the new guy in the profession, I think you want to ease your way into ripping the team a new one.
Unless you're picking up early the idea that they just don't recognize that this is a big deal, or but I can't imagine that's the deal. So obviously plenty to get into for Monday's show, Andy, but first, before we go,
Locked On Lakers brought to you by PrizePicks, America's daily #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest way and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you got to do is pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, watch the winnings roll in. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And there's options in football and basketball, all sorts of sports that you're looking for. PrizePicks is the best way to get action in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is the only real money daily sports platform with fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured, and you can collect your winnings in 15 minutes. It's that simple. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNBA on PrizePicks. Get $50 instantly when you play just $5. You don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Locked On Lakers is also brought to you by Skims. And I am somebody who's very picky about underwear, actually. I only like boxer briefs. They have to have a certain feel, certain tightness, but also certain looseness. It's like Goldilocks. They got to be just right. And when I heard that we at the Locked On Network could get some Skims underwear, my first thought was, Skims makes men's underwear. Yes, they do. Many styles. My second thought was, will I like them? The answer, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to like them. I tried both the 3-inch and 5-inch boxer briefs just to see what the difference is. The answer is one is 3 inches, the other is 5 inches. Otherwise, exactly the same, which is awesome.
The answer is 2 inches.
Yeah. comfortable. They're soft. They don't bunch up. They feel great between my skin and my jeans. I highly recommend. Shop Skims Men at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. This is very important. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey. Select our show, Locked On Lakers, in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, very important. We want credit for this. And if you're looking for the perfect gift for the whole family, Skims just launched their biggest holiday shop ever. Also available at skims.com. Again, make sure they know we sent you.
All right. We'll see everyone Monday.